What's going on? Hello
Hey,
out there in Service Business Mastery podcast world. How are you today? We are live here with Josh and Buzz. Not our exactly normal time. Normally it's 9 o'clock in the morning on Wednesdays, but uh, it's kind of wild here in Service Emperor land. So we had to push it back a couple of hours, but we're going to talk about what it's like or what questions you should be asking for your digital marketing agency, maybe your current one. Definitely these questions are going to help out for someone you may be interviewing before you hire them, which I'm super honored. Buzz has been on the show before. If you haven't heard an episode, check it out. We just released the episode a couple weeks ago, and we were live, I think, the day before or a week before or something. I mean, it was a quick turnaround with Buzz last time, but I'm super honored for you to be back on the show. And I mean, you were full of knowledge the last time, and obviously, we knew we wanted to have a couple more episodes with you. So, with that being said, Buzz, would you mind doing a quick introduction of yourself for anybody who missed the last episode and isn't familiar with who you are and what you do?
sure. Thanks, Tersh. Thanks for having me on. Hey, Josh. My name's Buzz. I'm with Buzzworthy Integrated Marketing, and we focus on website marketing for service-based businesses. We base everything that we do on the Rule of 26, which I wrote a book about. There it is, Rule of 26. A little plug there. That is on Amazon if you're interested in. Basically, we bring everything down to 3 objectives in web-based marketing. For service-based businesses specifically, so that we can focus more on what we do best and still be able to get business through our websites and have that salesperson working for us 24/7, 365.
Sweet. So, Josh, I'll kind of let you take the reins on this because I know you've been taking a lot of notes on this, and this is definitely more your forte than mine. So, I'm here to listen and throw in some objections here and there.
And be inquisitive as always.
As always.
Yeah, I was like, I think we tried that last time, Tersh. I don't know.
We'll take
Every
over at
time.
some point.
Yeah.
I am feeling the theme. Here we go, Josh.
Buzz, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Josh.
So right after we got off the air last time, this wasn't planned to have a part 2, and we started talking about the questions that people, maybe the unasked questions that contractors and business owners do not ask of their marketing companies ahead of time. So it's just one of those things. Hang on one second. Trish, you got that?
Yeah. Buzz, I think you're getting feedback there.
Oh, I'm getting feedback?
I'll just mute myself to see if it was me.
There we go. How about that?
That sounds better.
Okay.
No.
What's going on
A
there?
little technical difficulties here.
No worries. The land of media.
Oh, yeah. Technology.
I actually started my business as a media company. I don't know if we went over that.
Oh, I think you did talk
No.
about that.
Originally, I was a recording studio. I was a failed musician out of the Air Force. And I started a recording studio first, BuzzBiz Studios. And then about 1 year in, I realized that surviving off of starving musicians was a horrible business plan.
I think we might have touched on that a little bit. But
All right. So
I don't know where that back. Can you? Sorry, I can still hear it. I don't know if that's coming from me or.
Yeah, that might be coming from you, Josh. Check your microphone. Take your microphone or your headset.
yeah, I'm not hearing any feedback myself.
You're not hearing it either, at all?
No, I'm not. Are you in your headphones, Tersh?
I am. Yeah, it's
Okay.
not. It's just this reverb echoing.
Okay, hold on. Let me try and put my headphones on.
Yeah, that might
The joys of doing these live.
Hey,
Test.
if you didn't make mistakes, then you're
not doing it right.
Yeah.
I can't hear any back feed anymore. I don't believe. So it might have been my headset. I was getting it on.
I just plugged in my headset.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
We're good. Awesome.
Okay.
Problem solving in the moment.
Boom.
So
Sweet.
Where we were going with this before the last 3 minutes of that was, and this is something I get a lot. And honestly, I feel like I'm almost, when people come to me and ask questions, they'll ask me like, what should I ask? And it's business owners, especially contractors, because as just texting back and forth with Tersh this morning, he was doing the normal contractor thing, running around, putting out fires, taking care of everybody, and then trying to host this show. So he knows. And the last thing you're thinking about is like, oh, maybe I should ask this question to a marketing company before I hire them, or even the current marketing company you have. And it was after our last show that Buzz was bringing this up post show, and it was like, wow, this would be a great segment for another show. So here we are. And with that intro, I don't know, Buzz, if you want to kind of get started, and we'll just take it from there.
Okay. Well, let's see. Do you, Josh, is there a question that you wish the last 5 clients that hired you would have asked?
Well, I think, and this can be a super deep or a super wide topic depending on how you go about it. But so recently in my world, I had an electrician that came to me, emailed me and was looking for help with his website urgently, which is a little weird. Like in the HVAC world, when I was there, urgent requests were every day. But in the digital marketing landscape, it's not usually, unless your website's down, you don't really have like an urgent request. Right. And so I called him, and he was with a large marketing company. And if you dealt with contractors enough, you probably know the name Buzz, and I'll tell you after the show. Okay. But he was in a contract, and after the contract, he didn't own his website. So he wanted to move on from them. He did not know he wasn't going to own his content or his website. So he literally, I think he was in a 6-month agreement, threw away all of that money. And he had nothing. And now he doesn't have a website. So we're trying to get a 1-page landing page up as quickly as possible that still looks good, so we can at least start with a foundation and then build. But this was on like Friday afternoon, and trying to go through that and trying to get him back up as quickly as possible. But he didn't know because he didn't ask. Right. And so stuff like that, like the finer print, if you will, with marketing companies, maybe some of your experience of some things that come along with that people should look out for, and they should definitely have that conversation up front. Or if they are already in an agreement with a marketing company, maybe they should start talking about it now before it's like, hey, we don't want to work with you anymore.
Ownership is like one of the biggest things in marketing that people overlook. My agreements from back in the early aughts, when we started building websites, had a whole page of ownership in it. And we were able to, over the years, bring it shorter and shorter. But copyright and trademark and ownership and working files, all these things come into the discussion. And website ownership is like one of the biggest ones. I had a construction company that just sold their company to another, that he just bought it from one of my clients. And he called me up and he's like, hey, I want to get into my website. I was like, well, okay, well, they own the domain, so I can't touch anything until you get access to your domain. I can do everything you want on the back end, and that's fine, but nobody's going to see it until we, point the domain to the new site. And it took him 8 months. So it's on everything. He almost quit on it. I was like, well, you could just use a different domain. And so we actually went that way, and we moved forward. And so I always make sure that my clients know upfront, whether they ask it or not, hey, when we build you a website, you own it. It's yours, right? And so that's one of the first questions I would ask anybody right before signing is, who owns what, right? Another one that I see a lot of is people not owning their own Facebook or Google ad campaigns. You'll get this a lot when somebody's coming to you and saying, hey, we'll do a performance-based Facebook or a Google ads campaign for you. So we'll only get paid when we bring you a client. Now, there's 2 problems with that. 1, each of those leads is going to cost you more money. And 2, you have no historical data of what they're doing with your brand out there to get that lead for them.
Oh, wait a minute. So they actually could be doing things that are harmful to your brand.
They could, or they could be saying one thing and then turning over the lead to you, and then your close rate could be much lower because there's a bait and switch involved, and you have no control of what that looks like because they don't give you access to it.
Oof.
Bad juju. So I always make sure that people understand, hey, we're building your campaign inside of your account that you own, and we'll give ourselves the admin access, but you control who is in there. So someday we don't agree, or we just need to split ways for whatever reason, you just click of a button and we're gone. But you have all of that data that you technically paid for, because even when you don't get an ad to convert, the AI that's involved and all historical data is stuff that you can learn from, the creative, the targeting, all of those things, right? And so when we talk ownership, we're talking future ownership of blue sky that most people don't never think about doing.
Yeah, I see that. It's hard to get people to wrap their mind around the future for that stuff, because they're just like, well, my ad campaign's not performing, I want to shut it off, whatever, and they move on. They're not thinking about, well, in 6 months or 12 months, I may want to turn this back on, and at least I have a data set of what worked versus what didn't work, so that way the new company can build on something that's already existing. So
sometimes what doesn't work is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than what does work.
100%. And when somebody comes in, they don't want to have to go through the process of elimination all over again. Right? Like, oh, this didn't work. This didn't work. Oh, I see why that didn't work. We could tweak this and do this and maybe do some A/B testing, ... Right? So yes, that you got to have ownership of every aspect of it. Now, there are things that you're not going to get from creatives. Working files. So I have been asked over the years, like, hey, can you design it and then give us the working files so we can work on it? Well, creatives make their living off of what they create. You're usually paying for. So unless expressly put in writing, and usually it costs you a lot more, you're getting the end file, the output file. If it's for print, it's the print file. If it's for an ad, a Google ad or anything like that, it's the display file, the JPEG, the PNGs and stuff like that. And if you want more changes, you usually have to go back to your creative. So those are things that you're usually not going to get. But everything else, yes. I think that the other thing that people don't think about is who owns their domain for their website. Does the web host, do you have it with the same people, right? And where are my files backed up? Are my files for my website backed up to my current server, or is it offsite where it's safer? Because if something happens to the server that your website's on and it gets hacked, which 350 million websites get hacked a day, you're kind of SOL. That means that somebody has to come back through and work all the way through that the process of fixing whatever the hack destroyed, right? So those are three big ownership questions.
So you're saying the working file, as in like the AI file. That's okay. So they're just going to get the PNG or something like that.
Or they might get an EPS. So another professional can pick up an EPS, right? But they're not going to give you their Adobe working AI file, because there's just so many reasons why, just in the headaches of who has fonts installed, do you have the right filters installed, do you have all the plugins installed, all the things, right? And that's where you get in a lot of trouble when it comes to the creative on that. So EPS files is usually what we send to people, or a PDF. So it's editable. It's an editable file, but it's not my working file.
Okay, good.
Those are great points. Those are great points. I actually ran into a client. He's a current client. Ironically, it's the same company that I'll tell you about after the show. They set up his Google My Business listing, which I know a lot of marketing companies help people with. But what happened is this was the company they were leaving. So they were leaving this company to come on board. And the primary owner of that GMB listing was that marketing company, while the actual owner of the business was the owner. Now they did not do anything negatively to it, but as soon as I saw it, I said, you need to contact them immediately and have them place you as the primary owner, because they could easily just be like, boom, business is closed. And now all the calls you're getting from Google My Business, especially with the prevalence of how important that is, are going to they'll drop off immediately.
They could start putting links into other people's businesses on your link. They could start making Google posts that you don't approve of. There's all sorts of malicious things that they could do that would take away business. And then you're not going to be able to manage your own reviews, which is the most important thing on a GMB, right? And so, yeah, if the company's not asking for your email, and it's usually got to be a Gmail account nowadays to set up your Google My Business, you might not be working with as much of a professional as you thought.
Speaking on that, so we talked about content. So make sure you know who owns the content, the important high-level pieces of things. Mm-hmm. What about the actual companies themselves? What kind of things have you run into that people say, man, I wish I would have asked this of my company, or I wish I would have done this beforehand? Something along the lines of the actual company itself, and maybe how they perform their work, or how they share their work, or whatever. Mm-hmm. What have you run into that people have told you that they wish they would have done something ahead of time before they decided to work with this company?
It's a great question. It's research. So it depends on how you come about the company that you're thinking of signing up with. Okay. So if you've come upon a marketing company through an ad, through a social media ad, there's so many things that they're doing to get you into a funnel and get you to sign up so fast that you forget usually to do your research on the company. Now, statistically saying 68% of all consumers will go to the search engines and do their research. But if you haven't, that's a question you've got to ask internally. And if they don't give you enough time, the first thing you can ask is, can I please get 2 to 3 references of people you've recently worked with in or around my industry doing what we're talking about doing. So if they're not going to give me enough time to look you up, and they're still not willing to give me references to do more research, I go to the adage of there's no deal so good today that I can't get it tomorrow. Right?
Very true. That's so true. If you just ask, usually the deal is set. Well, yeah, we'll give you that deal if you sign up with us. It's usually over for another day.
Exactly. Don't talk to me about long-term relationships and then tell me I have to say yes in order to get it there. Yeah. Like, that's not long-term.
Yes, right now.
Right? Forever, but only if you say yes right now. No.
So what besides testimonials or somebody that would actually be an outreach, which I've people that ask, I certainly provide that for them. And I've always asked clients ahead of time, like, hey, yeah, would you mind doing this? Mm-hmm. But what other research things or maybe some tips can people use to figure out if a company's full of it or they actually are pretty good at what they do?
So when you're doing your research, look up like their name and scam. Their name and I'm serious. Really? Yeah. So if it's ABC Marketing, that mustsign-on-today.com, I'm going to go there and I'm going to go ABC Marketing mustsign-on-today.com scam. And anybody who's reported them as a scam, boom. Next one is the BBB. Go to their Better Business Bureau listings. Nobody has to pay to get complaints on Better Business Bureau. Okay. You're going to have, I say that it doesn't matter if they have complaints, it's what they did with the complaint, right? Because there's miscommunications, there's all sorts of stuff out there, right? I think in 17 years, I think I have 2 that are still hanging out there from way back when, right? And that's great. How did they deal with that, right? Another thing that I do with Google reviews is I go down to the 1 and 2 stars. Not that they got them, it's that what did they do with them? Because anybody can give great customer service when things are going great. It's what you do when everything goes to crap, right? And how did they deal with that? And did they turn, because not everybody takes a 2-star and makes it a 5-star after they've been given the best customer service they've ever seen. But if you look at what their responses are, maybe their policies and stuff like that, you can definitely look at that. Another thing that I'm wary of is if a company has 500 reviews and they have nothing in the 3s or 2s, nothing, or they're all 5s, nobody's that good. So sorry. So if they start getting into the 50s, 60s, and they're not at least at a 4.5, 4.6, there's something fishy about that, and you can buy those. I mean, it's still there. That social proofing has a
go
hole
to
in it.
Fiverr, go to Fiverr and type in 5-star reviews or Google reviews. Somebody will sell you Google reviews from all over the world.
Oh,
It's insane.
It is insane. Another place to look at is, when you look at reviews, is look at past Google. So I'm on a listing called clutch.com. And those are a great way to do research on folks in our industry. Okay. You and Josh, you could get on there quite easily. And those reviews are extremely vetted. Like you have to prove who you are. You have to kind of prove you've done business. They have actual interviews with the people. They're way into like the validity of, right? And I'm listed at like 11,000 of the best SEOs out there, right? Because I've only been around 15 years, right? And it's like you have firms out there that service 10, $100 million companies out there, and their retainers are, in the tens of thousands of dollars just to start with them, right? Okay. And I work with small to medium sized businesses, so we're going to be there. But I could go to there and look for the smaller, because you can figure out what size of company you want, and then see if they're even there. If they're not even listed there in the industry, and this is for any type of industry, it doesn't have to be just marketing. They're all out there. Angie's List has them. Everybody has those. And if they're not at least on one of those, how long have you been around? Why aren't you on this?
Yeah, there's a lot of different review sites. Like Google, Facebook, or Yelp are the primary ones. But even if you guys, because I know software is a big thing in the construction and trades industry, like go to g2.com or Capterra, or there's sites that are more for companies outside of your space. Like Google is important for what HVAC, plumbing, electrical contractors do, but not so much for, like software companies. Going to Google, it's not the same because anyone can buy those reviews. Software needs a little bit more like price, what you're getting, customer service, all that kind of stuff.
The only thing with like the C2 and those kinds of things, Josh, is that those are usually affiliate type of sites. So they give you a great review, but just remember the way that they rank is usually how they get paid.
Sure.
So you'll notice that some of them don't have as many reviews, and they might even not get as many stars on the reviews that they have from the consumer side. But they're going to put them up on top, a 4.2 over 4.5, because they get paid more for the affiliate link for the 4.2.
Sounds like Yelp.
Yeah, it's just like Yelp. It is a Yelp. That's what C2 is. It's just for software. And that's okay because they do a lot of the research for you. So you've cut out a lot of the noise, right? And they show up. The reason they're so powerful is because they show up in the top 2-3 organics for best HVAC management software in Illinois or in the United States or blah, 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 blah. And they're going to come up C2. Oh, you're looking for a list of software. They're going to come up, boom. Now you can start getting an idea of. So like when I went and did my research for my professional system automations for my agency, I spent a lot of time going through a lot of reviews and a lot of interviews to do those things. So yeah, those are a lot of different ways to do the research on. It's a long answer to a short question, but that's everything's out there. All you have to do is look.
Sure.
I mean, like for me as a consumer, how do I know what's BS versus what's real? Because like, I don't know what C2 is and I don't know what Clutch is. Like I know what Google is and I know what Yelp is because they're evil. But I don't know what these other
Google's my friend.
Google's my friend. YouTube is my friend. We're going live on YouTube.
All right, there you go.
So,
YouTube is Google.
So how do we know as the end consumer what's good and what's not? Because like if I put myself in the consumer's shoes and we start talking home warranty companies and start comparing a home warranty company to an actual service company, and it's like, hey, my realtor told me that this is great, I'll never have to pay $1, blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, home warranty companies are a scam. Like they're just plain and simple. That's what it basically is. It's an insurance company. They don't want to pay. But as a HVAC guy, I know that. But then as a homeowner, there's a lot of people who have no idea. So putting myself in that same shoe, like I don't know how to find these websites that are the legit websites versus the ones that you can pay and put yourself at the top of the listings.
Right. So we're going to go back to how you're choosing your marketing people, because it's the same concept. You're going to go out and you're going to say, okay, so and so home insurance scam, and see what their scam BBB listing, see what they've done there. Look at their number ones and their number twos. If you find them in one place, try to find them in another place. If they're not, and you can't find them organically, like by just typing in their name specifically, there's something wrong. They're not as legitimate as, another one that you could, right? If it's a name that an institution that you don't recognize, from advertising or word of mouth and referrals and stuff like that, type in their name, do a vanity check on them and see what they are about. Go to the second page and see what they say about them there. Okay. Everybody's going to have, everybody's going to have I don't care what industry, or somebody's going to talk smack about somebody. But when you start seeing scam, oh, that's bad. That's not just bad experience. That's bad. Just bad people. Get away. Stop. Yeah. One S scam, because that means they've scammed more than one person.
That's just one person that's listed.
That's just one that caught them and figured it out, and then they took the time to warn other people. Okay, so that's really those three things right there are my litmus test of, like, should I continue to have a conversation with somebody who's reached out to me? Now let's go back to the original question. What do we ask before we hire somebody, right? Or what kind of research we can? Now, if they're a referral and you've been referred by somebody you trust, that little search right there before you call is usually going to happen anyway. 2/3 of most people will do a small research, or at least visit your website. And so that website needs to look good. I was asked to be on another show, and it was for a marketing firm as well, was tied to it. And I went to their website, and they touted a bunch of stuff in their intro, and I went to their website and I'm like, I don't know about you guys, and then my agent's in there, well, they got a big show. I was like, well, how big of a show is it? And what kind of audience is that? And what's going on here? Because if you can't market yourself, they can't market themselves, then how are they going to market you? And the whole, coddler shoes and all that stuff. I get it. I've been there. I understand that, but does that mean that they don't have enough resources to handle you if they signed on a bigger client than you? What are the situations that are going to happen in the coming future when they do get forced to, decide to do a rebrand and take their resources that way, and because they've ignored themselves, right? So you kind of have to look at who you're, is the personality of that website even in with where you're at, right? Does their portfolio, do their case studies look like that? And so that's another question you can ask somebody, is if they're not going to give you a specific referral, which is kind of like, if I can at least get one reference from you that you've been working with. Yeah, at least a couple. I usually send like 10. Like, here, I'll give you more than you'll ever ask, right? And I have permission from all of those people to do that. And most people don't call them. That's the problem, right? So it's like, okay, well, then give me a case study of somebody that's done exactly this. It doesn't have to be my industry, but just show me that you can do this again, right? Show me the back end of it. And any marketer worth their salt is going to be able to at least show a screenshot of some report from Google, Facebook, or wherever they're coming from, and say, yeah, here's a legitimate, there's the company, here's the dates, ... It's there. Boom. I put them on my website, so there's no questions. Like, oh yeah, let's just go to my website. Here's 6 of them. Boom, 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 right? Done. And so then we don't have those questions, right? What's another question that you can ask is, your methodology.
Well, that's scope of work. Josh. That's scope of work thing. Because I get that question from time to time. Like, do you have not necessarily a case study like from the business owner that we work with, but maybe some results. Case study like from my end, like before and after, almost like a job site. Like if Tersh was going to a job site and he was taking out an old system, putting in a new one, I want to see what it looks like before and after. Right. And what does that mean in terms of calls, leads, form fills, subscribers, whatever you're trying to get done. But
I think you're talking about what's right. So when you're asking, I get this question recently, which is a really good question. I love it because there's a lot of people out there not delivering, right? So ask, how are you going to measure success?
That's a good one.
That's it. That's what I'm like. For me, because I've had this personally, I've had it's like I got thrown so much data, and they're like, "Here's what we're doing," and I'm like, I don't know what any of that is.
Right.
And that could be good, could be bad. I see like 5,700 impressions. And it was 2,700 impressions. That sounds like a good number. But nowhere in there did it say, all right, so what was your cost per click? What did you actually get? What revenue did you generate per this? Like that's the information that I have no idea about. And it's like, oh wow, we have 100,000 impressions. Dang,
and 0 sales.
Exactly. or the bounce
doesn't
rate
mean anything, right?
Like,
right.
no, like
98% bounce rate.
Yeah, 90, and it's right there at the very bottom. It's like 98% bounce rate. Oh, that's a big number. That must be good. Like,
so
there we go.
So guys, that's why I wrote the book, The Rule of 26, because there's only three objectives that really move the needle immediately, right? And in the Rule of 26, I talk about if you can increase your unique traffic, your conversion rate, and your average value per client by 26% each, you'll have the compounded effect of 100% more revenue coming from your website. So I had a potential client, they actually just signed on yesterday, that they literally took them 15 minutes to understand that I literally put it in print so that you have to hold me accountable for it. There's no BS. Like it's this there. It's the math. Go do the math. If you don't believe in math, let's not do business.
Math, man.
But that's why like that was like the crux of like, what do our, as an agency, where are we going to stand our ground to say, if you don't believe that this is working for you, then we can't work together, right? Well, the one number that I know every business owner understands is revenue.
Yep.
And I don't know too many that are making money off of what I do that will walk away from it.
Right. It doesn't make sense.
So I tied everything to money.
Yeah. If I get an ROI, if it's paying for itself, why stop doing it? I'll never stop doing something that's paying for itself. It's like, I'm tired of making money.
Right.
You know?
Oh, you're 10x my what? I give you $1, Buzz. You give me 10? No, I don't like it anymore. I want 5 for my $1. Oh, okay.
Well, the thing about this is like most of the times I feel like personally I've given $5 to get $1 back.
And that happens though.
I feel like, you know,
but for a lot of people, depending on your industry, that's what it takes. You know, I mean, I was working with a trucking company, and they're not even a trucking company. They just drive trucks for people. And when I came to them, they were paying $75 per conversion. We got it down to 17 in like 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 weeks. 45 days later, we took a $75 conversion rate. Now, we're not talking just conversion. You reached out to us like closed business, right? So, oh no, I'm sorry. That's just reaching out to the thing. So it's not closed business.
Okay.
$75 he was to pay for a call or an email through his website, down to 17. Okay. I mean, and his service only costs a few $100s, right? Depending on how long the haul is, or the distance, right? So if you're paying 75 and it's a $500 gig, that's $75. That's almost 20% of your revenue, your gross revenue that you're paying just to get the call, not let alone just the business. Like I got to go close that business now, right? They got to pay their bill. We got to go through the whole thing. So I think that's in some industries, you do pay 5 to get 6, but that you need to ask your folks what is reasonable for your industry. Right. And everybody has averages. There's nobody that's in my industry that shouldn't be able to give you some sort of reference of what should be expected when it comes to some of those KPIs.
So how do we know if the KPI is BS or not?
You Google exactly what they just asked, because that's where they got the. That's where they got the.
Well, for me, it's like okay, so they like especially if they have some access to our CRM. So giving them some basic, not administrative access to Service Titan, but just visual access. So they can see how many clients we're getting, how many new clients we're getting. We have dedicated phone numbers to
call rails and stuff like that.
So they can tell if it came from that phone number, blah, blah, blah. But there are certain ones that they may take credit for that could have been a friend or family that legit just, I said, hey, go to this website and click there to schedule, blah, blah, blah. And so then they're taking credit for things that they didn't actually do. And
how often is it happening though? What's the margin of people that you would suspect that happening?
At one point in time, a lot.
Okay, but
we were when we were growing, we had a very strong following with local networking. Our business card had the same phone number as like our Google page did. So called from our business card, it would show up as a Google call or a website header call. And so that was, I fixed that because of this suspicion. But they were giving me reports saying, look at all these new clients we got. And I'm like, that's a lot more clients than we even got, because we were so small that our number was very small. So I knew most of the people that were calling them. So it was like, if I was double the size, triple the size I am right now,
I would feel it.
I would believe you, but I know every person that has called in because I'm taking the phone calls. Like,
right.
So I don't really feel like this is an accurate number.
Right.
But it's like, how do I know though? Like, because you got a fancy report here. I don't want
what I do. Okay, to answer your question, Tersh, let me answer your question. You're going to get about an 85 to 90% accuracy with a digital marketer. Okay. So the question you're asking is not what. So our first question that Josh had was, what do you consider success? Right. Our next question now is, how do we measure success? What constitutes a conversion? What constitutes, and how do you gather that information? You, as a business owner out there in the audience, are going to have a different way of tracking things than the next guy. Okay. So there's going to be two options you're going to have. One, they plug into how you track, or two, you're going to plug into how they track. You just have to be comfortable with what that looks like. Most good marketers have a process. Have them show you the process. If you're not comfortable with it, ask more questions. If you guys can't come up to a solution that both of you, that they're willing to provide and you're comfortable with, they're just not the right person. And it's okay. It's okay. Like Josh and I could have the same exact stuff, but his personality might match yours better than mine, and vice versa, right? There's plenty of us out here that actually know what we're doing. All we're trying to do is help you get rid of, or not get in front of, the people who are just there to take your money.
Yeah. And there's so many people out there now that do well. So COVID came, a lot of people got laid off and did the course that, was $199, and now they're a digital marketer.
Oh yeah.
So with that, when that came, there are some legit people who had already been doing marketing before. And then this was just hey, this is a good time for me to go ahead and start doing this. Whereas other people are like, hey, I can steal money from people, not in those terms, but I can steal money from people.
No, there's people who literally like, hey, what do you mean? I can hire somebody from the Philippines to do the work that I say that I'm going to be doing,
right.
Pay them $6 an hour, charge you $200 an hour, and go and sit on the beach and be the laptop life, blah, 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 blah.
And then Instagram how rich I am by doing, how do you know? How do you, like, for me, how as a consumer, like Josh is not one of these people. So I'm gonna start the conversation with Josh, not one of these people, but I'm gonna use Josh as an example. How do I say, all right, Josh, I like you. You're a great dude. You just got started. I want to trust you. You seem like you know what you're talking about. You use a lot of good buzzwords. No pun intended.
That's a good plug.
But then I want to spend money with you, but I don't know if I can trust you. But I don't want to use the company that's been around for 30 years that literally I will get assigned a person that probably has less knowledge than you do. And now I get 2 hours a week from them. But if I hired you, at least I'd get your attention. You're a small company.
You'll return my phone calls.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff, right?
That good stuff. So it's like big company,
Small company. Okay, so your question.
Really
So I'm hearing your question, Tersh, is, I am a small business owner. I'd like to do business with another small business owner. Okay.
Yeah.
There are 3 sizes of marketing firms. Okay. There's the solopreneur where they do the work. So asking them who mashes the buttons when you do all the voodoo that you do. Okay. They're going to give you, right? They're going to give you one of 3 answers. Me. Okay. My team. You will be connected with a project manager who will be working with a pod of blah, 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 blahs. Okay.
And I've had that answer before.
Okay. So that's out of those 3,
that burnt me a lot.
Right. They usually do because there are numbers. So those larger firms are only looking at you as a number. Okay. 100%. So the person that's on the phone gets paid for you to sign up. After that, they don't get paid again. Okay. That's just their job. That's just the way it goes. Okay. So there's more business than we can all do. So the big guys are trying to get as much of the market share as possible. Okay. So if the larger firms are the only ones that can serve you, you're kind of stuck because they have tools that some of us smaller guys don't. They have resources like large teams that some of us don't have. Okay. They also can hire people with higher expertise than some of us smaller guys can. Okay. So really what you're asking is, do I need to get in bed with a solopreneur that's only been around 1 or 2 years, or a small business owner that is closely held, self-managed, might be the sales guy? Like for me, I talk to my clients more at the beginning than I do at the end, in the middle, because
not the end. There's never an end. It's just
okay. Let me back that up. So the large corporation thinks you are going to be a good client for at least 3 months, up to 11. My average client is 3 years. I have clients that I've had for 16. Okay. So, and I've had a large firm style all the way down to it was just me for a little bit again. Okay. And back and forth. Right. So it's really about I haven't been around a long time and they're saying the right words and you like the way that they are answering all the questions we just got done asking them in the last 20 minutes, then it's a gut check. There is no guarantee way. But if somebody's been around 5 years versus a guy who's been around 10 years, and they're saying the same, they're giving you the same answers with a lot of the same outcomes that, through their case studies, and they Google well and all the other things, then it comes back down to who do you want to do business with more? How is their methodologies align with how you do business? Do they report the way you like to report? Those types of things. There's nothing wrong with a project manager. It's just the ability to talk to an owner. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. And something I want the listeners to really pay attention to closely that Buzz mentioned there. And I can talk about this via personal experience. Okay. So I loved the guy that was my salesman at the large company that I hired. I really liked the dude. But once I signed the dotted line, I never spoke to him again. Ever. Mm-hmm. And the project manager was a great person too, but the people that worked for the project manager sucked. And they legit were numbers. So they were like, hey, look, you get 2 hours a week worth of work from me, and whatever you want done, just add to this list, and as your time accumulates, we'll knock off those projects. And I'm like, but for me, like, I know how to do WordPress, but whenever I ask for something to be done, about half of it would get done in the 2 hour period. And I'm like, I can literally Google, learn how to use that plugin and complete the whole task in 2 hours.
Right. Or watch a YouTube video.
I don't understand this. This time doesn't compute. The 2 hours.
Well, you're not putting into the project manager's time, the creative director's time. Then the person does the work. Then it's got to go back to the creative director, make sure it's done right. Then it goes back to the project manager to let you know that it was done.
Exactly. That's my point. 100%. That is my point right there.
So yeah. So what I do in my firm, like, people are like, oh, so do I get to talk? who do I talk to? I was like, well, you can talk to me at any time. I give them my direct line. But then I say, here, you're going to have a project manager. You can talk to them at any time. But they're also going to get a direct line to the creative. Because if you can't talk to the person who's mashing the buttons, then you're going to end up with what Tersh had, which is a lot of wasted time and getting billed for it. And so instead of buying hours, this is another question then that I think you just brought up, Tersh, which is,
Agreed. How
do you charge? Do you charge by the hour or do you charge by the objective? Because people who bill like SEO specifically, I see it all the time. You get 10 hours of SEO.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, granted, my company uses time as a basis, but we do not charge by the hour. We charge a flat rate. And these are the objectives we're going to get. And in the month, the first month you don't think you're getting value out of us, you'll fire us. So it really doesn't matter how many hours I put in, as long as I'm giving you results. Okay. So if we've already covered
the home service industry and going flat rate versus time and material, because otherwise that trip to the supply house, that customer is going to be sitting there and going like this, waiting for you to come back. Be like, did I get charged 2 hours for you to go get some popcorn at the supply house and stop at Burger King on the way back and stuff like that? Where
and they don't know what that looks like on the back end.
I love that. That's a great question for people to ask, is how you bill, because
how do you bill?
It's something I'm not as familiar with. I'm used to the flat rate world. Like, this is a whole new.
Don't go away from it, Josh. Stay with the light. Stay with the light. And stay flat rate.
Yes,
you know, I mean, I even do my websites that way. You get very specific in construction. You guys get very specific on the scope of work. We do the same thing. And if they give you a vague, then that means you have a lot of latitude of what you can ask, right? Yeah, and they're going to pay that on their back end there, and you're going to be like, hey, listen, this is what you said I was going to do. You said you're going to do everything. Okay, I'd always run from somebody who says we do everything, right? Even in SEO, we'll do all the things that needs to be. No, there's too many things in SEO, right? So we might do one thing one month and another thing another month and a couple of things the following month, right? But we need to be very specific about what the scope of work is and what the objectives are. If you don't understand those two things, then you can't hire them, because you will have an argument at some point.
Yeah. And for me, something that Stephen Christopher said, and Josh knows Stephen. Stephen's a buddy of mine. He has a digital marketing company called Wood Digital, and he's a good friend of mine. We've been friends for years. But one of the things that he has always said is, make your digital marketing company an extension, like bring them into your company and communicate with them like they are an employee sitting there with you all the time. Because if otherwise, they won't know what you want. They won't know what, like, your
we can't read your mind.
Exactly. And I thought about that, and even recently I've thought about that. It's like, because we have all of our employees are remote, and so it's like, you got to maintain the culture. Everybody has to have a common message, but if you're not constantly telling them the message and sharing with your digital marketing agency, like, this is the message. Oh, wow. Like, you put a lot of yellow on our website. Yellow is not our brand color.
Right.
Our brand color.
Oh, no. Yeah, how about this? I've had a client that I've had for 15 years. They're a landscaping company. They decided to open up a new materials plant, one neighborhood over, one town over. And then I'm getting a complaint like, wow, man, this materials plant is just not, we had to move it one block over last summer, and now we're not getting any sales. I was like, I didn't even know you owned one. Like, how have we been doing business for 15 years? You don't even tell me. I was like, okay. Right. Yeah. So now it's like, okay, well, now it's on my objectives list, right? Because I'm a fractional CMO for them. Okay. And that's kind of what you're talking about, is bringing somebody in that way. And so one of the things is very new. It's not new, but it's becoming a thing. It's fractional DMOs. Yeah. So you've had CMO, so it's a chief marketing officer, and you can have a fractional CMO for a fraction of hiring a full-time chief marketing officer, which is awesome. Used to do it all the time. Right. And I still have clients that I do that for. Okay. Literally, they're like, anybody asks about marketing, they just send them to me. They don't even ask. I just go back and say, okay, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, just like I was a C-level person in their company. Boom, done. Okay. Then you have a digital marketing officer. Okay. So this is very specific to digital marketing. And the best that I've seen, and then I've been able to do with my clients, that brings me into the fold, is take a percentage of gross sales.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That makes
So,
perfect sense.
so when you bring me on, we get a percentage of gross sales.
Yeah.
Okay. When sales goes down, my compensation goes down.
Tie them together.
Right. So now you boom. Now, the thing with that percentage, though, is that the percentage I take includes your digital spend. So it is a flat rate. So when,
So it's not like, okay, it's going to be 3% plus whatever Google charges me.
right. It's going to be say, well, my standard is 5%. Okay.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay. So 5%. And I'm going to dedicate a half of whatever you give me to actual advertising. And the rest is my cost that I have to endure. Okay. That way, if you come back to me, it's like, well, shoot, we're down 10 grand. Well, that means that our budget is now down for advertising that 10%. No business is going to cut their foot off to not pay you for performing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I love that. And that, I mean, that really goes back to like we said before, if you're making money, I'm not going to cut you off, you know,
because you cut me off. You're cutting yourself off, right? Because your advertising dollars are tied to how I get paid.
That's almost seems like that's a no brainer. Like
you'd be surprised.
Because for me, if I'm thinking, all right, look, my marketing expense is going to be 8% and you're going to charge 5%, that leaves me 3% to spend on other stuff for marketing. And and it's like, geez, that seems like a no-brainer to me. Like it's just like,
right. And now, I mean, you still have other marketing you're going to do with that other 3%. You're going to have sponsorships. You might have some banner ads. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that you could do out of home, and maybe you're sponsoring a little league team or all that stuff. So that all, there's that part of it. So, as a DMO, you don't need all of the advertising, because I tell people that digital marketing does not happen in a vacuum. You still have to go out and network. You still have to give good customer service. You still have to have a customer experience. You still have word of mouth, all the other things that go along with it. Digital marketing just feeds off of that.
Well, burst that bubble. I'm just trying to like give you money and not have to do anything ever again.
Well, then you need a fractional CMO.
I'm trying to be the guy on the beach.
Right. Well, I'll tell you right now, my clients that my clients go on vacation a lot more than I do. Let's just get that.
I have some friends of mine. Every time I talk to them, they're on vacation. I'm like,
oh,
how y'all make money? Like y'all on vacation all summer long.
Because they have business managers. That's what it is. I have a friend who does windows, replacement windows, and he's got 2 locations in 2 different countries now. But he started up in Alaska, and he made enough money to buy one down in British Columbia. That man owns a yacht. All this. I'm like, when do you work? They work 4 days a week, like 14 hours, 15 hours a day, and then they take 3 days a week off. And then every other month, they're in another country. Just the way it is. Because they have people running their business.
Yeah, if you set it up that way, I mean that's like clockwork. Mike McCallow's clockwork.
Yep, clockwork. Yep, you got it. Take the profit first. Clockwork done.
Mike's a good buddy of mine. I love him. We were actually in Fix This Next. His
nice
books. Yep.
I like him a lot. I should get an affiliate program for as many times I've sold his book for him.
Yeah. He is a great dude, and Profit First really changed the way that we did business. So
awesome! It did for me too. When I restructured my business from a creative agency to a digital marketing firm, I happened to have read that book, and everything changed from that day on. It's been a beautiful thing. I've been able to pay my people more, my clients get more. It's been just a life changer. And I converse with him on LinkedIn. I don't have a face-to-face meeting with him yet, but we are first level connections. How that works. Yeah. So he accepted my connection. I was like, oh, I was not expecting that. Okay.
He's a legit good dude. Like,
yes. Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
One of my my SEOs lives in New Jersey, right down the street from him.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah.
Cool deal.
Yeah. He's pretty cool. All right. Is there one more question we should be asking? Is there one thing that you wish people would ask?
One thing that actually you mentioned the word. We didn't really go into it about 15 minutes ago. Guarantees. Because this is a fun. I don't know if we can keep this to like a couple minutes, but
we can.
What should someone be asking? This is a 2-part question. So what should someone be asking? Because everyone wants a guarantee, right? And then what should they be leery of when somebody, a marketing company, responds to that?
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
We're going to flip it. Okay.
Yep.
Run when a marketer gives you a guarantee. Don't ask for guarantees because there's nothing guaranteed in marketing. Okay.
I can guarantee you that I cannot guarantee you anything.
Yeah, I can guarantee you. Yeah, right. Exactly. So what I do instead, what I encourage people to, and how I respond to those questions is this: my job is to make you money. If I'm not making you money and you're not getting an ROI, fire me. It's plain and simple, guys. If you can't get the job done, you get it. So then the question is, how long do I wait until you fire me?
Yeah.
I tell them 20 years is about where I would like you to be.
20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but that's what I want. Now, what you need
that's
to do
how you
is
get the yacht.
Yeah, that's how you get the yacht, right? So what I do is two things, and I think that people are starting to get smart on this. I don't do long-term contracts unless there is a scope of work that just takes at least a certain amount of time. So if I'm in SEO, I'm at that 4 to 6 month mark, depending on where they're at in their SEO, to say, hey, listen, I need you to commit as much as I'm going to commit to SEO because we're going to do that. Now, do I under promise and over deliver every stinking time, right? Like we're killing it with some of these guys, right? But I want to give them the worst case scenario so we can prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Okay. So I'm like, okay, if you're not seen, and I give them specific objectives that we're going to meet, and that's what you're asking for. So the guarantee is that you're not locked in for a year. I just had a gentleman sign up yesterday that was locked in for a year contract. The agency took 3 months to put up a BS website that will not convert one single person if 1 million came to it. Period. End of story. Right? 3 months. Charged them up the wazoo for all of their services while waiting for a website. Then they spent another 2 months, him and Han, about what they're going to do about marketing it. Okay. They had another 7 months on their contract. He was able to get out of it because they just didn't do the work, right? But who wants to go through that crap? Just get into a short-term agreement that then just goes month to month. Now your person's on the hook and is answerable to you every 30 days. The reason that agencies get into 12-month and 24-month, I've seen 24-month contracts, they don't want to have to go get the clients again, and they have a high turnover. If I don't have a high turnover, I don't care how long I sign you up to begin with because I know you're going to be around.
Yeah.
Right.
Period. If I have an average of 3 years on a client, I don't need a 3-year contract. I need a 3-month contract just to get things started, right? If I'm an SEO, give me 6 months. I'll make sure you do. And if not, I'll make sure that the next person that takes it over gets everything they need, because it's just as important to offboard people as well as you onboarded them. Period. End of story. So I hope that answers the question and in short enough time.
That was a great answer, because I know we're coming up on an hour. That's why I asked you to be short.
Yeah, right. I know. I get my eye on the time there. But I wanted to make sure that you had both sides of that coin, because because without those guarantees, you're not gonna. What do you base it on, right?
I mean, it's wild, because everything that you're saying is the stuff that I should have ran from with the first agency that I used. And it's like, I signed the year-long contract. It took me 3 months to get the website up and going. I got 0 traffic to the website. And when I did, the conversion rates were nil. And what they spent all my money on was PPC. And they were like, look at all these clicks we're getting. And then come to find out, all the clicks were on my personal name already.
Yeah, no. It's so funny. I look forward to the day where we can get paid per conversion, right? And then have that actually work out. But
I look forward to that day.
Yeah.
I think most business owners do.
Yeah, right. That would be awesome. But unfortunately, like when we started the conversation, that's where you get caught in not owning your campaign. So until the internet's figure that out, we'll go with what we've got, and hopefully the folks that have been listening today will find the people that are right for them, and they don't have to run into some of the horror stories we had to go over today.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool, Buzz. Thank you for being with us today and sharing so much information with us. I really appreciate that.
Man, my pleasure. Thanks for both of you for having me back on. This is awesome. Awesome conversation.
Absolutely. Cool. Josh, did you want to add anything before I wrap stuff up here?
No, I think we went pretty deep on that topic, which was awesome. So I hopefully anyone listening to this, take these questions back to whoever you work with, or ask anyone that you're interviewing now. It's super important you do this stuff ahead of time if you can. If not, at least do it before it's too late and you maybe sign another 6 or 12-month contract. Just figure it out beforehand before you invest a lot of money and waste a lot of time.
Right.
Yep. I love it. Cool, man. Buzz, thank you. Josh, thanks as always for helping me and making things happen. People don't realize how much Josh does on the back end, holding me accountable and helping things out. I mean, he really has been a godsend for me because
I'm kicking Tersh's ass all the time.
I was trying to do so much of it.
Next time I'm going to have to bring a hat. I got to bring my hat and bring it.
You do.
So we got all three of us. There we go. Yeah.
Cool. If anybody has any questions, if you're watching this, you've seen Buzz's website, sliding across the bottom banner there. We'll add that to the show notes as well. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Buzz. Pick up a copy of his book. And I look forward to talking to you again next week on the Service Business Mastery Podcast. His podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. Our target with this show is to help answer some unasked questions. And a lot of questions that were asked today, I wish I had asked, several years ago to the first art marketing agency that we ever used. Probably wouldn't have ever used them, but yeah. So anyways, hope you have a wonderful and safe week until we talk again next time. We'll see you.